Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. We just pressed the Let's Go Live button and we're waiting for the tubes to connect themselves. And it looks like we're live. That's tremendous news, my friends. Happy Thursday. I hope your post-election glow continues to shine oh so brightly. We got a lot of business to attend to today, and we're going to start by talking about Trump's criminal cases, because there was a new article out from Vox that is going to be explaining why the charges are doomed. And they changed their headline. It was doomed. Now it's basically dead is the language. It went from doomed to basically dead. So we'll talk about that. We also have an update on the New York sentencing case. Fox News is hearing some things on this. We've got MSNBC is heeding warnings from attorney Mike Davis. Good for them. Wise decision. We also have got Biden, who came out today and addressed America. And we also have Karine, because what's happening here is very interesting. They told us Trump was a threat to American democracy, and now they're just transitioning to him, just handing the country over to him. Here's the keys, Mr. Dictator, Fascist, Nazi, Adolf Hitler, insurrectionist. Here you go. And that's weird. Maybe they were not really being honest with everybody, historically speaking. So Karine was out. She got asked about it as well. We'll zoom in on that. Then we got to go through some Arizona updates because there's a bunch of stuff happening here again. I know. Sorry about that. But we got news because the New York Times still has not called Arizona for whatever stupid reason. And others are asking questions about Kari Lake and the counting of the ballots there. And some of the usual suspects are saying the usual things. But we're also seeing that guy that we've talked a lot about here, Stephen Richer, the county recorder for Arizona, deleted his X account, nuked it right off the interwebs. And people, including state senators, are saying, what gives? Where did your account go, Stephen? Because you were on here fighting misinformation. And so I don't know what's going on over there. It might be one of the biggest temper tantrums we've seen. A lot of people are reacting to Trump's victory very differently. And one might be a temper tantrum from Richer. We've also got some news updates we'll poke through. We'll check in. We'll see what Kari Lake says about it. We'll see what Harmeet Dillon says about it. She's here, lawyered up. We have another attorney who will share with you his thoughts, and we got some clips that we'll go through as well. So some good stuff there. We'll go back through Tish. We had a short clip of Tish yesterday. I think it was yesterday, because she was speaking in the middle of our show. Very rude. But we'll listen to her and read through her press release because, man, she posted a whole press release in conjunction with Kathy Hochul of New York. And we'll see what they're up to because they're gearing up to stop Trump. And we heard a lot of that. In fact, this morning on our member stream, we read a little bit about what was happening with the governor of Massachusetts, who said that she's not going to be buying into any of Trump's demands either. Then we'll talk about Michael Fanone. He was one of those J6 cops, and he's very upset. He's out in the woods. He's drinking beers. Might have been on his fifth or sixth beer. We don't really know. The Washington Post wrote a whole story about it, but he says, you better effing arm yourselves, as he's drinking beers in the middle of the woods somewhere after the Trump victory. So some people aren't processing it too well, and so we'll go back and we'll check in on what Fanone is saying out there. And so, my friends, we got a bunch of great stuff to get to today. Very glad that you're here and with us. Before we jump into any of this business, you know what we got to do? Get prepared, baby. One way we can do that is with our friends at the Wellness Company, because we know there's election chaos, national disasters, and more. We got Hurricane Helene. Remember, that was coming on. And we don't want to be caught off guard. That's why we have the Wellness Company. Now, it's a great kit. You don't have to take my word for it. Andrea's talking about it. She says, this kit has everything that I need. The doctors behind the kit stood up during the pandemic, and they put it all on the line to help us. And it's got a bunch of things, right? Unlike other companies, it has a bunch of stuff in there. So you can see this compare and contrast. You're covered. You've got replenishments. You got great pack there. So let's not forget, this stuff is backed by guys like Dr. Peter McCullough, and ordering is very easy. Just a few clicks. The link is in the description below. You can remove the red tape, get your medication in case you need it, and you can use the link in the description below, twc.health/Robert. You'll save $30 off, and you'll get free shipping with our friends at The Wellness Company. And so make sure you check that link out in the description and get prepared, baby, because you never know what's going to be happening out there. And so now let's talk about the business on the day, because we have some good updates from the media. Trump's cases are basically dead. All the criminal charges not looking good. Liberals screaming at the sky all over the world. Now, the criminal case you can see being reported by Vox are now basically dead. Their prior headline on this before they changed it was doomed. They say, turns out all those indictments were pointless. Which is great, because that's kind of what we were saying here. Now, we're not going to let this go so easily. It's not like, no, it actually wasn't just pointless. Okay, you guys waged war, and Vox is a very lefty magazine. Okay, so the fact that they're here, this is like hilarious, because they're just so mad about this. They're basically pointless. We wasted our time. We didn't. Yeah, that's right. But it wasn't pointless. Okay, let's not let them get away with this. They spent years investigating and then prosecuting Trump. They raided his house. It cost him millions of dollars in campaign costs. Those costs could have been redirected to other more useful things, like running a campaign. But they weren't interested in that. They were just interested in prosecuting their opponents, and it cost him a ton of money. That was our money being donated to his campaign to support him, and it was taken from us and repurposed for legal defense, which many people were fine with, but it's an opportunity cost that should never have occurred. So these criminal cases against Trump are now basically dead. So let's read through this. This is their analysis. So this is them saying, this is how we see it, even probably with Cope built in, right? Looking at this in a light most favorable to continued prosecutions, they're like, we're done, we're doomed, it's over. They write, all right, look, President Trump was indicted 4 times, including 2 indictments from 2020. One was for the J6 case, one was for the classified documents case. They say one of these indictments yielded a conviction, they say, which I disagree with. I think the interpretation is wrong. They like to jump into that, but I think a conviction in practice, in theory, maybe, when the jury comes back, but in practice, it's after the sentencing. That has not happened yet. And so put a pin in that, because we're going to go through all of the cases. Now, albeit on 34 minor charges for falsifying business records. That was Alvin Bragg's case, where Michael Cohen, who came in and testified, even though he was a convicted perjurer, they brought in Stormy Daniels, right? She did the same thing, was talking about, now she's like under attack. He's standing over me and all this stuff. Give me a break, Stormy. Now she's hanging out with former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Wild. Anyways, that was a rigged prosecution. They introduced a ton of immune evidence. They were talking about Trump's internal operations at the White House while he was the president, communicating with Madeleine Westerhout and Hope Hicks, 2 people who were literal staffers at the White House. All of that should never have made it in as evidence. But the extraordinary protections the American system gives to sitting presidents will ensure that Trump's not going to prison. He's going to the White House instead. Yeah, baby. Now, I think there's still a little possibility, right? We could still see if Judge Merchan wanted to get very aggressive. I still think he's got some plays here if he wants to do it. I just don't think he'll do it. There's too much momentum going the other way. But oh man, you can imagine a lot of people had all their eggs in this basket. Remember, it was the any day crowd, any day. They're going to get him. They're going to get him. They're going to get him. George Conway started an entire PAC. You know how much work that is to start a whole PAC? Called the Anti-Psychopath PAC or something, which is hysterical because it's founded by a psychopath. But all right, we're the Anti-Psychopath PAC. Why is our leader a psychopath? I don't know. It's irony. It's what a country it is. But he's going to the White House, so they're all having to process this because they were every day. It's coming. The clock is ticking. The doors are closing. Finally. The federal charges against Trump are doomed. There it is. So they swapped it. Doomed was in the title. They just pushed it down there. Yeah. 2 of the indictments against Trump are federal. Both of those were brought by the illegitimate prosecutor called Jack Smith. And 2 were brought by state prosecutors in New York and Georgia. That's the New York case, and then Fannie Willis. Come back on that one. The federal indictments, one was about J6, the other was a classified documents case in Florida, which was dismissed, are the most immediately vulnerable. Well, yeah, because one is definitely gone already. Okay, Jack has lost that one and has been declared illegitimate and has been declared to have been a recipient of millions, tens of millions of dollars of money that were never appropriated to him, according to one federal judge. That's on appeal. That's his job to get that reversed. So that case is basically done anyways. Once Trump becomes president, he will have full command and control over the DOJ and can simply order it to drop all federal charges against him. Once he does, those cases simply go away. All right, that's a little too easy though. Okay, there's a lot more complexity to that. In fact, as we learned yesterday, Jack Smith and the DOJ are now telling us that they're going to be wrapping up the cases. And we were speculating why that might be. Obviously, the shredders are going burr and they'd rather not get fired so they can wrap the cases up on their own terms rather than having Trump come in there and then wrap it up on his terms. But the other concept is they want to have the time and the money and the resources to write a report so they can smear him as he's coming into the administration, right? As he's taking over the reins. They'll drop this big thing. Trump's an insurrectional. Not going to change anything. Or maybe it will. Maybe they get their report in before January 6th and it incentivizes Jamie Raskin to invoke the 14th Amendment, something like that. Once he does, those cases will simply go away. Now, if that is true, if all Jack Smith does is write a report and then dismisses the case, that is true. They will go away. They will no longer be pursuing their appeal in Florida, which will actually be good news for them because they don't want to risk setting bad precedent in that circuit or having conflicting precedent between the Florida Circuit, the 11th Circuit, and the DC Circuit, because if there's a conflict there, then the Supreme Court might settle that. And whoa, if the Supreme Court sides with the 11th Circuit in Florida, then that becomes the law of the land for the entire country. And they certainly don't want that to happen. That means they would have no more Jack Smith power, which they never had anyways. Jack Smith, you could argue maybe they do have some special counsel power if it's a U.S. attorney who's appropriately appointed and gets the money validly and legitimately. But Jack Smith was not that. And they know how to appoint U.S. attorneys. They appointed Delaware's best friend, David Weiss, to go and prosecute Hunty Poo. So they know how to do it. Now, the White House does have a long-standing norm of non-interference with criminal prosecutions. Yeah, but this norm is nothing more than that. A voluntary limit that past presidents placed on their own exercise. Now, as president, Trump is under no constitutional obligation to obey this. He nominates the attorney general. He can fire them at any time. And again, he's not even going to need to do this because they've already told us they're going to unwind those cases. Now, indeed, Trump is reportedly considering Eileen Cannon, a judge who has consistently, they say, tried to sabotage the prosecutions of Trump. No, Jack Smith was illegitimate, guys. Cannon, who oversees Trump's federal classified documents trial, even tried to disrupt their investigation before he was indicted because the raid was illegal. And they had committed misconduct in their preservation of evidence. We know that the documents were out of order. They were putting cover sheets on there, taking photographs to create propaganda photos they could release to the Washington Post. When the documents were returned, they were out of order. Somebody was shuffling the documents around. There were boxes and bins. I mean, it was madness. So she says, no, we don't trust you to be the purveyors of the evidence. You don't get to do that. So she appointed a special master, and the special master then was overruled. Because the DOJ just convinces everybody that they are legitimate. It's really, sick that that's the default when we know the opposite is true. So they say the fate of the state charges is a little more uncertain, in large part because there's never been a state indictment of a sitting president before until Trump. They did it twice. So there are no legal precedents governing what happens if a state attempts such a prosecution other than, let's see if he gets there. It is highly unlikely that the state prosecutions can move forward, however, at least until Trump leaves office. Yes. On the federal level, the DOJ has long maintained it cannot indict a sitting president for a variety of practical reasons. He's the He is the executive branch, right? He can't indict himself unless he wants to. The burden of defending against criminal charges would diminish the president's ability to do their own job. Yeah, it'd be the president is indicting himself. That's how our structure works. And that's like dividing by zero. It's obviously lunacy. Now, and it's the same thing, right? That's why we have presidential immunity. You're going to keep hearing them say, well, immunity, he can claim immunity. And they don't even know what the concept means because they think that means that the Supreme Court said that Trump can go out and just start executing people or something, which they never said. There are the three buckets. One bucket is not immune. So prosecuting the president or a former president for the president's official conduct is illegal, and they should have known that from the beginning. There was no precedent. It was clearly going to come this way from the Supreme Court. It did. Anybody could have seen that because practically for 234 years, it existed, this immunity, in practice, until Trump came along. Then they're like, well, no. Now let's talk about his conversations about Melania from the Oval Office and raid his bedroom. Additionally, if the president were incarcerated, that would make it physically impossible for him to carry out his duties. Okay, so it's a public policy position? Yeah, right. There's little doubt that the current Supreme Court, which recently held that Trump is immune, would embrace the Justice Department's reasoning. The court's decision in Trump versus United States, the immunity case, rested on the Republican justice's belief, or let's say the Constitution's belief, that just like everybody else, like Congress and the courts, the executive is entitled to immunity. Every other DOJ has believed that, and nobody got prosecuted until this current era when these lunatics got in charge. If a president could be indicted for official actions taken in office, well, then he couldn't do his job. Like you elect the president, you say, hey, these are your jobs and your roles and responsibilities. Here's your job description. Where do you find it? Oh, it's in the Constitution. Oh, it's right here. Okay, great. So I'm going to do all these things. Oh, you did that? Yeah. Indictment. What? You just elected me to do it. Too bad you're indicted. Why? Well, Fannie Willis said so. Oh, in that case, you're right, because Fannie said so. These same practical considerations would apply with equal force to a state prosecution. There's also one other reason why a constitutional limit on state indictments would make sense as well. In other words, they'd extend this to Fannie and Bragg. Without such a limit, a state led by the president's political enemies could potentially bring frivolous criminal charges against the president. Oh, like Fannie and Tish. This argument may not seem particularly compelling when applied to a convicted criminal like Trump. He hasn't been sentenced yet. But imagine if, say, Ron DeSantis had tried to indict Joe Biden. Yeah. Which is no different than what's happening here. What do you mean, imagine if this has happened? Fannie and is this guy living like in Bizarro land? Has he been alive for these last couple of years? Imagine if Ron DeSantis tried to imprison Biden. He's like, imagine. Like, that'd be crazy. Or if the state of Mississippi had indicted Lyndon Johnson to punish him for civil rights legislation, right? That'd be crazy. But they did it here. He's like, we would never allow that to happen. You're like, hey, dum-dum, hello? You just did that 4 times. You write a whole article about it. One open question is whether Trump could be incarcerated over these next couple months. The only state that could do this would be New York, and that's Mercan. If he gets aggressive, he's got court dates coming up, including November 26th for the actual sentencing date. But he's got a prior date, an actual hearing to determine if the sentencing is even necessary before that. The question is whether an already convicted president can be incarcerated, whether that's a unique question. No definitive law on that. Mercan chose to delay the sentencing until after the election. Nobody opposed that. There's never been a state prosecution like this before. Bottom line, prosecutions are likely dead. And they're almost certainly going nowhere for the next 4 years. Womp, 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 womp from Vox. All right, so yeah, it's about time. I love this, okay? Turns out all those indictments were pointless. They're pointless. They expended so much energy and so much enthusiasm. All their eggs were in this indictment basket. Yeah, we're going to get him. Finally, he's going to jail. Sentencing is in like 2 weeks, okay? 2 weeks. They were so close. But oh, so far. And there should be repercussions for every one of these prosecutions. It cost millions of dollars in taxpayer dollars. Let's say billions, probably, because they were, You have to not just consider the legal costs and expenses, but think about the reputational damage that has come from this. And they did it right in the middle of a campaign for that reason. So Trump had to expend money to combat those. We're here every day saying J6 is ridiculous, okay? Stop being so hysterical about this, you lunatics. They're like, no, it's the biggest thing that's ever happened in America. Greatest attack on democracy since the Civil War, all this stuff. They say everyone cares about it. Go to the polls. What do people care about? Butter and egg prices. Yeah, as we said here clearly. But that was in spite of all of their efforts, right? They were trying to propagandize and terrorize people. And there's a huge portion of their audience and their voter base that is petrified today. And one of them is Tish James, who we'll talk about. But here is some more. So where does the New York sentencing stand? Fox News has an update. They say following his massive victory, Trump is still scheduled for sentencing in his criminal case later this month. He was found guilty of those counts, right? Which is the right way to phrase it. Yeah, he was found guilty, but other people say he was convicted. He hasn't been sentenced yet. Trump is scheduled for sentencing on November 26, already been a 4-month delay, but we are going to have another decision on November 12th. Trump's lawyers had asked Merchan to overturn the guilty verdict because of immunity, because in that trial, there was a bunch of immune evidence. There was testimony from people who worked with Trump at the White House about what they were doing inside the White House. Clearly immune. He's allowed to have all of those conversations shielded by the Supreme Court, and they used it as evidence. Can't do that. So he's expected to rule by November 12th. Fox News' team says a normal judge would dismiss this case, and then the DA would have to decide what, if anything, remains. He could rebring the case after the fact. But Judge Merchan has showed himself he's not ordinary. He's very corrupt, in my opinion. And so the catch-22 here is if he was normal, he'd dismiss it, but he's not normal at all. So he'll probably deny it, says this guy. I don't know. Because it's an immunity claim, that gives Trump's defense team the legal right to immediately appeal this. And of course they will. Stimson said that even if Merchan denies the claim, the president-elect would not face incarceration. He says the judge gets to sentence him, but even then, the DOJ would say, nope, sorry, look, supremacy clause, you can't impose a criminal sentence, especially incarceration of a sitting president. He's not the sitting president yet, but they'll say he's in the process of transitioning, and so those same powers should apply to him. And so in that case, the case will be on ice until after this, and then I guess Trump could get sentenced after his presidency, and then they put him in prison. This case, in the Fannie case, he says, as long as Trump's in power, they are now over for the time being. Can't pardon himself because these were state cases. And so we'll see what Merchan does. But as we know, he's not a fan of Trump. But does he have the stones to actually incarcerate the president or even move forward with the sentencing? I don't know. I think we saw him buckle a bit when he delayed the sentencing the first time. Remember, he was going to sentence him before the election and then didn't do it. I think he got cold feet because he could probably see where this was going. But here we have a fun clip. Mike Davis, you should be following him, Mr. DMIA on the X, and he's a great follow. Obviously does great work out there with the Article 3 project and a lot of fun. So he posted a tweet saying, all right, Jack Smith, you're on your way out. You're wrapping your cases up. Yes, we know everything's in the shredder, but don't think you're getting away so easily, buddy boy. You're not going back to The Hague without repercussions coming.
And so then what else could Trump do? Let's talk about that, because his legal advisor, Mike Davis, posted a warning to Jack Smith on social media after the election saying, quote, lawyer up. Can the DOJ do anything now to protect those prosecutors on Jack Smith's team or Jack Smith himself from retribution?
The short answer is no.
Yeah, first of all, Jack Smith's not even a real prosecutor. So what protection does he get? None. He's illegitimate, was never appointed as a U.S. attorney or confirmed by the Senate. So he, as far as we know, is one of the greatest thieves in American history. He stole millions of dollars for his fake prosecutions from the government and then defrauded the office and defrauded America and converted that $36 million plus probably 50, maybe 70 into political propaganda and retribution to the tune of billions in damages. Billions in damages.
at least the way Trump's planning to completely overhaul the DOJ,
Good.
hollow out all of the career staff, and
Good.
just institute a reign of terror. What would stop him?
A reign of justice, buddy boy. You guys have been conducting the reign of terror. How many citizens' homes have you raided over these last 4 years? Hundreds and thousands.
Nothing, as far as we can tell, based on the Supreme Court's view about his executive powers. And when he said he would fire Jack Smith, he cited the immunity opinion. In other words, he's thinking, I can violate the law in doing this.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying that Jack Smith's cases were illegal because he has immunity. He's not saying he can go break the law to go take out Jack Smith and have immunity. They never should have been brought, buddy. That's why it went up on appeal to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court sent it back down to Judge Chutkan and said, hey, Judge Chutkan, you kind of have a problem. Jack Smith rewrote his indictment. He had to do a whole second draft. So stop lying to your audience.
And it doesn't matter. No one can come after me. Now, Mike Davis has become almost cartoonishly savage here.
Watch it, buddy boy. It's not savage. If you guys can prosecute Trump for made-up charges like falsifying business records and for RICO charges for an alternate electors plan in Georgia, if you can make up charges for documents that were his because he was the president and raid his house, we can investigate Jack Smith for his tens of millions of dollars of thievery and his billions of dollars of damage to the American political system.
Talked about really a total blood in the streets kind of war of retribution.
That's not what he said. If Jack Smith didn't break the law and was a legit prosecutor who did a good job, well, then he's innocent. He can defend himself, right? He's a prosecutor. He knows the law, maybe. So he can defend himself. That's all we're asking for. Justice, not retribution, not blood in the streets. Nobody said that. Davis didn't say that.
I think the important point to notice, for starters, when the federal government trains its resources on you, it is ruinous, even if there's nothing there. Davis specifically talks about the financial.
What did he just say? When the federal government trains its eyes on you, it is ruinous? Yeah, that's the point.
Cost. People who have to lawyer up. Jack Smith has been a public servant all his life, and there's no real issue that he's committed any crimes, but there's nothing to stop a corrupt in the sense of not going after the merits, like DOJ, from forcing him to have a lawyer, defend himself in court, and it can be ruinous even if they don't ultimately succeed. This is the most concrete, scary sign to date that a democratic rule of law in the Department of Justice is about to be completely bulldozed and become a tool of autocracy for Donald Trump and petty revenge.
Zero self-awareness at all. None. Has none at all. Just described literally what they've been doing for the last 4 years. They weaponized the DOJ to go after Trump. And now, after a federal judge has dismissed it, Clarence Thomas is also intimating that they don't have this power to do what Jack Smith did, to do what they did. They made up the cases to try to take out Trump, and now elections have consequences, and no one is above the law. No one is above the law. Now, something interesting is happening. Remember, they kept telling us that Trump is like Adolf Hitler. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. His supporters are garbage. Joe Scarborough, I think, called us reductivists or something for being concerned about food prices. It's been an onslaught of insult and condescension for the last 4 years. And if you don't have 37 pronouns in your name and want to, do something to your kids, well, you're a bigot. Well, we're tired of that type of stuff. And all of that lecture from them is now begging the question, are they just going to hand the car keys of the country over to President Trump? I mean, they told us that he was going to end democracy. He was the greatest threat to American democracy since the Civil War, forgetting about Pearl Harbor and forgetting about 9/11 and everything else. J6. All right, so hey, Karine, what is your take? Are you guys going to just leave?
Does the president still stand by his description of the former president, now president-elect, as an existential threat to democracy?
I don't have anything else to share beyond what I said. The president believes, when he said it at the time, he believes he had an obligation to be honest with the American people. I laid out what people former staffers of the former president said. We're talking about John Kelly, former chief of staff. We're talking about the former defense secretary. They were very clear. And we also heard words that the president-elect said, enemy within, going after people who disagree with.
They're still doing it. You know what I really am enjoying about this segment? You know, you're enjoying it too, aren't you? Mr. President-elect. Yeah. Here, let's back it up.
Defense secretary, they were very clear. And we also heard words that the president-elect said, enemy within, going after people who disagree with him. And so the president is always going to be very honest with the American people. I don't have anything else to share beyond that. Look, we are being very clear here, right? The outcome was not what we wanted. And the American people have made a decision, and we want to respect the decision that the American people have made, and we are going to make sure that the American people get what they deserve, which is a peaceful transfer of power. And we're going to continue to focus on issues that matter. We believe that matter to the American people in the next 74 days.
Mr. President-elect in the House. She did not even like it. She was like, I have to say it, don't I? I have to say it. Yeah. President-elect. Say it. President-elect. One more time. I can't hear you. President-elect. Yes. There it is. You got it. Don't you forget it, buddy. All right. So here was the president. He came out and he seemed pretty happy about all this. He's like, yeah, I hate Kamala. She's terrible. I didn't even vote for her. Joe Biden was in red overalls voting for Trump, doing cartwheels out of there. She almost had a MAGA hat on. That's how covered in red she was. So here's Biden. He came out.
Yeah, it's good to see you all. Particularly good to see my granddaughter sitting in the front row here. Hi, Finn. How are you, honey? For over 200 years, America has carried on the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole. That's a fact. We're the people. The people vote and choose their own leaders, and they do it peacefully. And we're in a democracy. The will of the people always prevails. Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump.
Oh, yeah!
And congratulated him on his victory.
There it is again.
And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve. Yesterday, I also spoke with Vice President Harris. She's been a partner and a public servant. She ran an inspiring campaign, and everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much, her character. She has a backbone like a ramrod. She has great character, true character. She gave her whole heart and effort, and she and her entire team should be proud of the campaign they ran. You know, the struggle for the soul of America, since our very founding, has always been an ongoing debate and still vital today. I know for some people, it's a time for victory, to state the obvious.
Yeah, that's true.
For others,
yeah,
it's a time of loss.
Heck yeah, baby.
Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or the other.
Yeah, it wasn't a fair contest.
We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win.
Wow, he's so inspirational. I can really see why he got 18 million more votes last time than Kamala got. Really, I'm like, I feel that thrill down my leg, you know. Amazing. So I can see, obviously, why he's so loved by the Democratic Party.
You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do no matter who you voted for.
All right, dude, this guy came out and gave us MAGA Gates of Hell speech.
But as fellow Americans, bring down the temperature.
No, you.
I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system.
No, actually, we don't have any answers on that because people, even the Democrats now have questions about this. And we covered a full segment on this coming out about the missing votes. Democrats are wondering, where'd those 18 million votes go? If you got 81 million votes, and Kamala got 69 and change, or whatever the final numbers are. They're all adjusting. Where'd they go? You want to boil it down to 14 million votes? Okay, 10 million votes. Where'd they go? Joe, we're going to find out as soon as Trump gets in.
It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted, win or lose. I also hope we can restore the respect for all our election workers who busted their necks and took risks at the outset.
We love our election workers.
We should thank them. Thank them for staffing voting sites, counting the votes, protecting the very integrity of the election. Many of them are volunteers who do it simply out of love for their country. And as they did their duty as citizens, I will do my duty as president. I'll fulfill my oath, and I will honor the Constitution. On January 20th, we'll have a peaceful transfer of power here in America.
Yeah, buddy.
To all our incredible staff, supporters, cabinet members, all the people who've been hanging out with me for the last 40 years, God love you, as my mother would say. Thank you so much. You put so much into the past 4 years. I know it's a difficult time.
All right, so Joe Biden sounds a lot more coherent than he has in a long time as he's welcoming Trump back to the White House and exiting Kamala, which is about time. Now, will this be the status quo moving forward, or will Democrats plot and connive and come up with something on January 6th? Remember, Raskin, the same guy who is out there lecturing us about peaceful transfer of power and that Republicans should just accept the results, not long ago was saying that they would never let him take power. And he was the same guy that objected back in 2016 when Trump won in that historical election. So Democrats, I think, are regrouping right now. They're processing the loss. They never realized this would happen. It's like in a video game when you get bonked on the head, they're woo, but they'll come back and they'll be ready to go. So let's see what else. What is happening in Arizona? This is an interesting thing that's happening. The Arizona election continues to drag on, and something interesting has happened on X. You remember Stephen Richer, this guy who lost his election and will no longer be our county recorder, was a very active user on X. You can see his account had 38,900 followers, and he was on it a lot. He was constantly trying to combat misinformation and all that stuff, which I actually appreciate. I appreciate the election officials coming on and trying to curtail what they believe to be disinformation. I much prefer that than having them just contact the FBI to have posts deleted. That's how this should happen. Just make your arguments. Jocelyn Benson says, "You're all liars." I say, "Oh, we are? Why? How do you say so?" She says, "Well, we have an FAQ on our website that explains how this is." I say, "Great. I love that. Thank you. Let's go read it." We pull it up here on the screen, read it, do the math. You guys help me with that? And what do we discover? We're right. Elon's right. She's wrong. She's just being manipulative with her explanation. So then they can respond to our alleged misinformation, and we can show that we're right, accurate, and truthful, and that she's the liar. Well, same thing is happening here. He has been all over the place on X, and now, after the Trump victory, the current Maricopa County recorder is gone. He deleted his account. This is a little bit concerning because we still have an open, ongoing election happening right now. And he, up until today, essentially, was up talking about it, posting, responding to people, trying to explain what's happening. And now he just abandons ship. So isn't that convenient? So he just deactivated his X account as people are alleging more fraud happening to try to dispossess Kari Lake of a victory. Says, count the votes and give us the results. And it's not just our friend George at Bahizi Tweets, who does great reporting. You can, of course, give him a follow over at Bahizi Tweets. Great guy. And also shared this from AZ Senator Justine Wadsick. She's a state senator from Arizona, part of the Freedom Caucus. Says, what's going on over here? Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer has deleted his personal X account. The ballot drops are still at a standstill. What's going on? Deleted. Interesting, right? People wondering what is happening. Now, the ABC data guru friend, fellow, says that ballots drops are not at a standstill. Okay, they're still coming in, and he doesn't know why. But ABC 15's data guru, this guy who does reporting on elections, not a fan of Trump or anybody on the right side, but has access to good numbers and good data, says, as for Richer, why did Richer leave? And he was a pretty big defender of Richer, in my experience. Says, I would imagine he wants nothing to do with this app anymore. There are a lot of manipulative grifters on here. I wonder what that means. So we don't know what happened with Richer, but he's now gone. And he's been giving us some numbers. The data guru has been posting some numbers. And for example, here's some of the latest. These are great numbers. Now, the question is, how many ballots are left? Look at these numbers. Okay, Yavapai just posted 2836 ballots. And just to clear this up a bit, the response from the data people, from the pro-government people, the people defending the Arizona ballot counting, the slowness of the ballot counting, their answer is just, it's the law. They say, essentially, when you boil it down to it, there's a bunch of reasons. They're kind of complex if you want to really get into the nitty-gritty on it. But long story short, they say you can take your mail-in ballot and drop it off on Election Day. So what that means is, and that happens a lot, so all those people have to have their signatures verified and then counted on Election Day or after the election. So that's the process. Rather than them putting it in the mail, when they receive it in the mail, like a week early, then they can process it. But because there's a huge batch of them that get dropped off the day of, they default. They say, it's just Arizona law, so just shut your mouths. And we say, oh, well, maybe the law shouldn't be that way, or we should fix this, because it's kind of been multiple election cycles where this is a laughingstock. And repeatedly, they just tell us, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Just this is how it is. And so, okay, well, if we know it's this case, then why don't we stand up more resources than to do it faster here? Well, we need more money. Well, the legislature won't give us more money. Okay, but they gave you these things. So then how about you don't do these things until you get the money? Like, there's everybody's pointing fingers at each other all over the place. Long story short, it's going slow. There are movements, but it's very slow. So Yavapai County, which is a red county where Prescott is, beautiful county, posted 2836 ballots, and 30 minutes ago, it just came up. Now look at these numbers. It's a GOP stronghold, so good numbers for Kari Lake. 1772 votes is what she netted. Would have been nice if it was 1776, or 17,076, but you get the point. Kari Lake, 80% of those votes. So 80 to 17, those are huge numbers. If she can keep that trend up in Yavapai and elsewhere, that's good. Problem is, in Maricopa, another big county, it's going the opposite direction, but not by much. It's more like 51 for Gallego and 49, something like that, for Lake. But here you can see in Yavapai, in this one county, there's 59,000 ballots left. So if Kari Lake takes 80% of those 59,000, what number does that cut into Gallego's lead if that pattern continues? A lot. Probably not enough to get over the margin. Maybe it is. Our math gurus would have to tell us and spreadsheet the heck out of it, but tightening dramatically and very slow. So that was that. He's responding. He says, we take a lot of time because 90% of our 3.5 million votes are by mail and they're verified manually, which is why it's taking so long. And let's see if he had any other updates. All right, in Maricopa, he says the party split of the next 230,000 ballots, this was earlier today, could be problematic for Lake. Let's see. 3 hours ago, says Maricopa just posted 229,000 more ballots. So this is the big blue county. Maricopa County is where Phoenix is, the city of Phoenix, and we have a bunch of other smaller cities in the surrounding suburb area. A portion of these are probably Election Day early ballots. Here's the party breakdown. Much more Democratic and independent than the last couple of batches that were posted in the portal last night. So more Democratic, but still looks like still favoring Republicans, but more Democratic than Republican, I guess. So other batches were less so. So, it's very close. It's going to be close again. Quick note, these are not being counted today. about the mail-in balloting problem. He says, Warren Peterson, Arizona Senate president, says, I have tried without success to shift us to the Florida model that has a Friday cutoff to drop off early ballots. The current delay is from counting the mail ballots dropped off day of and have to be signature verified. Maybe I can get enough support now to get it across the finish line so we can stop with this nonsense. Says, so there's no failure. It's all just normal times, right? Just normal counting. And they told us it could take 10 to 13 days. And so that's where we're at. So we'll keep an eye on the numbers, man, and it's getting close. So let's take a look at some of the official numbers. Again, we were looking at the New York Times on our numbers. And Kari Lake here, according to these numbers, 1.235 to 1.185. 50 to 48, 69% of the votes are in. And zooming in on this graphic, we're asking, this was the Yavapai County that I was explaining. So that's 61% of the votes in. You can see it looks like Kari Lake has 2/3 there. Mojave's 82% in. That's a very red county. Navajo's coming in, 10 points for Lake. Coconino's a pretty sizable county. That's the opposite, inverse. That's where NAU is. And then we have University of Arizona's down here in Pima County, which is where Tucson is. It's a very liberal county as well. And that's 62% of the votes in. So those 84% up top in Coconino, and then 62% down in Pima County. So in other words, it's going to be the inverse. Pima County will be the inverse of Yavapai County, like literally 2/3 one direction, 2/3 the other direction. Yuma's pretty red, 57 in, 69 in. According to these numbers, there's a lot that's still out. So we are not writing this off yet at all. We're going to keep our hopes out and our optimism up on that one. So let's see what is there, what's happening. There is a lot of support here in Arizona for Kari Lake. We can see they're rallying the troops. We've got Kari Lake is posting this. Says, the most important thing you can be doing the next few days, she dropped this bright and early this morning, is helping TP Action cure these ballots and make sure every vote counts in Arizona. And you can even do this over the phone if you don't live in our state. So if you're out there and you want to help Arizona, help Kari Lake win in Arizona, give a hand. And we'll repost this at the top of our timeline so you can follow the link. Ballot Cure Training, courtesy of the Charlie Kirk crew, Turning Point, and all that happening. So keep your eye on Kari Lake. We also have Harmeet Dillon, who is in Arizona, circling the wagon. Says, Arizona update. There are lawyers and trained observers monitoring the tabulation of ballots, duplicating, and the adjudication until we're done. I'm in constant touch with Kari's lawyers and supporters about this, and we are watching every ballot drop, as is the Arizona GOP and Gina Swoboda. So they're counting. It's going slowly. There's a ton of people here keeping their eyes on it. Turning Point PAC, also Tyler Bower over there, who is the Arizona COO, 7th generation Arizonan. 7th? Whoa. TP Action. He is saying that Turning Point also just filed an FEC complaint against the, quote, Republicans for Harris campaign in Arizona. Says not only was their campaign an embarrassing failure, we believe they did not make proper disclosures to the general public. And so they dropped this. This is from their attorney saying, we believe we've got important work to expose dark money backers and bad entities, a lot of people manipulating Arizonans for far too long. And so interesting filing there. We also saw, this was an interesting comment from Ryan L. Heath, and he's an attorney who's here in Arizona. And we've met, and he's a very nice guy. And he had an interesting theory here. Says they're potentially swapping out ballots here, right? And this is being posted to the election integrity community. Not saying that they are doing that or what, but there are some hints that maybe, he says, there is a possibility of that. And I think he filed, or he has some info on this. He says he's reached out and contacted Kari Lake on this. So if you're looking for more information on that, give him a follow, because he's commenting on how this works in Arizona. Here's his explanation. He says, the longer it takes, the longer Maricopa County has to illegally erase, retabulate the already tabulated ballots is the more time they have, right? The longer it takes, the more time they have to make changes. Here's a sworn affidavit from MC's election director. This looks like it's an older post from, actually, no, this is from today. Says, here's a sworn affidavit from MC's election director admitting that this is happening right now. And here's a link to the MC's chair's board of supervisors, Bill Gates, admitting in 2022 that you can't do that, that's illegal. And he went to Harvard. So he knows what he's saying when he admits the practice is unlawful. So for the record, they did this for 44 vote centers following the 2022 general election and at a nearly dozen vote centers following 2024. Here's why this matters. None of the folks that cast ballots at the impacted vote centers can be sure their votes were counted as originally cast, and it's entirely possible for actors within the MC to swap the ballots out and change the results. Possible. Not saying it's happening, but it's possible. Given that MC makes up a 60% of Arizona's voting population, this is a pretty big deal. So interesting idea in theory here. So we will keep our eye on Ryan Heath and see what he is up to. But if you're more interested in this, also be sure to give him a follow on X. So my point in sharing this, we've got a lot of people with a lot of eyeballs on Arizona. A lot of people are scrutinizing this thing, which is great news. And we support our lawyers. Shout out to Ryan Heath and others who are keeping the pressure on this and investigating these concerns. So good stuff there. All right, so let's take a look at what is happening elsewhere on the cables. They don't like it when attorneys are investigating the Arizona shenanigans, and so Van Jones wants people to be silenced. Here's what he said.
There are two sets of laws and rulings we have to deal with. The Supreme Court has allowed this unlimited amount of money dumping in, and then, you know, there are legal protections that allow these companies to do what they want to and do what they will. I think in a normal country, we would say, hold on a second, maybe we need to have a different set of regulations for social media platforms now that they're this big. Maybe we need to have less money in the system. But that conversation is not happening yet. I mean, there are...
All right, so what are they going to censor everybody harder this time? Here was a big question about the Senate. Kari Lake, we want to send to the Senate so that we have a nice Senate margin because we have a bunch of squishy Republicans in the Senate. Thinking of people like Susan Collins and others, who I believe is still in the Senate. And Romney, okay, these individuals, who I think is also still in the Senate, right? Or he's retiring. I don't remember. But the point is, we want good Republican conservatives in the Senate. And Senator Thune is saying Trump should stay out of his business.
Is President-elect Trump involved in, does he have a chosen preference in the Senate? Do you know, Senator? And will that come into play?
I don't know that he does. I'm staying in regular contact with him and with his team. And, you know, obviously, if he wants to, he could exert a considerable amount of influence on that. But honestly, I think my preference would be, and I think it's probably in his best interest, to stay out of that. These Senate secret ballot elections are probably best left to senators, and he's got to work with all of us when it's all said and done. But whatever he decides to do, that's going to be his prerogative, as we know. And but I think we're going to have that election next Wednesday, and we'll have a new leader.
All right. I sure hope Trump doesn't stay out of it because we want a nice, accommodating, and friendly Senate. We also want a good cabinet. Let's see what some of the rumored names are who might make up Trump's incoming administration.
Good morning, guys. President-elect Donald Trump is already in the process of meeting with his transition team.
Of course he is.
Strategizing
no breaks,
about
baby.
How he will fill his next
no breaks on this train.
So here's a look at some of the names being floated for top cabinet positions. Ben Carson could be back for another term as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development.
Okay, what's up, Ben?
Betsy DeVos could also be a repeat for Education Secretary, and Mike Pompeo could come back as Defense Secretary. Some of Trump's former GOP primary opponents who have since turned into allies are also in the mix here, including North Dakota
the rest
Governor
of the list
Doug
I'm fine
Burgum, who
with.
has been mentioned as a potential pick for Interior or Energy Secretary. Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who could be in the running for Secretary of State, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Agriculture or Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Yes, Health and Human Services.
Rubio and Kennedy are already weighing in on their potential future plans. Listen.
I'm in the Senate. I have an opportunity to serve there, and he's going to need people in the Senate to help carry that agenda. But maybe that's the place for me to serve. Maybe there's some other capacity. I really don't know, because we just came from that victory.
In some categories of workers, there are entire departments, like the nutrition departments at FDA, that have to go, that are not doing their job. To eliminate the agencies, as long as it requires congressional approval, I wouldn't be doing that. But I can get the corruption out of the agencies.
Senate Republicans are planning to work with the Trump team to begin cabinet nominee confirmation hearings before the inauguration on January 20th, 2025.
All right. So, interesting list there. Mike Pompeo. Yikes. Didn't he want Trump prosecuted for his classified documents garbage? I remember playing a clip here of him. He's like, wow, classified documents are very serious, even for a president. You know, Trump, no one's above the law. Like, what, Mike? He's the president. They're his documents. You know that. Stop it, Mike. And then didn't he try to, like, drive Tucker Carlson off a bridge or something one time? Like, don't you dare release anything or I'm cutting your brakes. Tucker's like, what? Just reporting the news here, bro. No to Mike Pompeo, but the rest of the list looks good. All right, so let's see what's happening with Michael Fanone. Not having a good time. Former January 6th cop Michael Fanone not having a good time with Trump's victory, unhappy about it, and has run off into the wilderness and is apparently drinking a lot of beer and saying, you better effing arm yourselves now because Trump has won. And Fanone is an interesting character because he was certainly there, according to the official story. And there's video footage of him being injured and tased in the neck and all these things. There's more complications because he was off duty responding to a call. And I read Stephen Son, the former Capitol Hill chief of police, his book about this. And he references Fanone as coming in and being injured and being more in alignment with heroism that day. And so you have some sympathy and some compassion for him in that regard. Simultaneously, he's also come out and, in my opinion, exploited a situation without ever actually looking at the true causes of it, and has just doubled down on one narrative against a person that he was already predisposed to liking, and extrapolated and exploited a situation to use as a political cudgel against his opponent, which of course is reprehensible. So on the one hand, you certainly don't want cops being beaten or violence occurring at all. And you also don't want exploitations of tragedies by people who are elevating it and escalating it and turning it into something that it is clearly not, being used as a propaganda tool for the government. But what's more interesting, I think, about this whole narrative is how quickly they've thrown Fanone into the garbage. And this guy's clearly off the rails now. And he probably has been off the rails for a little while. And so this story also, I think, goes to his credibility as a witness for all of the January 6th testimony, right? Goes back, is this who he was this entire time? And did he go nuts or was he always nuts? Because even CNN canceled their contract with him, as we're about to read. So they published this right after January 6th. This guy has been very useful. Some people call him a crisis actor, right? You look online, you'll see all sorts of stuff. I don't know that we'd go that far, but he certainly has exploited this. I think there's a record that he was part of the cops, but he wasn't on duty that day. He showed up after the fact and apparently was responding to the call. But a lot of questions about it, so you can be your judge. But here was the report. Now, the left thinks he's a hero. We played many clips of him pounding on the table, all the things. Here's the story. He's in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The date is November 5th. Trump has just been declared the 47th president of the United States of America. Michael Fanone leaped off the couch, lumbered towards his fridge, retrieving his fifth or sixth, maybe, beer. He glanced at the TV, took a sip of his Sapporo, and offered his first thought on the second Trump presidency, saying, "You better effing arm yourselves." His tone was somehow both furious and serene. He saw this coming, he said. And on Tuesday night, some in America were starting to arrive at a place he'd already been living in for the past 46 months. He says, "I didn't vote for this MFer, and I fought tooth and nail to prevent this day from effing coming." This reporter's like, holy crap. He'd learned about more than 300, quote, deep state enemies that Trump's self-described Secretary of Retribution had compiled. It's good. I'd like to read that list, see who's on it. Fanone says he saw his name on it. Now, if Trump wants him imprisoned, he says, I'd rather be killed in a shootout. They're not coming for me. He says, I'll die right here on my effing house. I'm not going to be in some apprentice effing military tribunal. Televise it. What's Trump going to come out? You're dying. You're dying. You're dead. You're dead. I'll die in my effing house. Totally normal. Fanone insists that he's not some prepper weirdo. No, he's not. He's just someone who understands how law enforcement can be weaponized against people. See, we're getting a lot of self-realization after this election. I mean, Democrats are asking questions about missing votes now. Where'd all those where'd 18 million votes go? All over X today. Hilarious. We should be asking questions. We totally encourage it. We welcome our lefty friends. Yes, investigate your elections. Look into them. Yes, maybe you were rigged. Maybe it was rigged. Investigate. Because you're not going to like what you find. You're going to realize just how deep the rigging goes. So yeah, he's realizing, yeah, law enforcement can be weaponized against people. And I hope he realizes he was a part of he was a tool, as we'll realize, he's going to realize soon. And I fully expect that to happen. Now, you were a part of it, man. Fanone, 44, has spent the past few years trying to tell people about what it was like to defend the Capitol, how he joined the officers in an underground tunnel, used his body as a shield, how he'd been stripped of his badge, his radio, his ammunition, and his gun, which rioters, he said, threatened to kill me with. Said, I've got kids. He was tasered, and I have seen video on it, and eventually pummeled unconscious, woke up in a hospital, learned he had a heart attack, a concussion, and traumatic brain injury. Right? And there's questions about that, about how he got there and all the things. Now, he testified before the House committee investigating J6, as we saw, and he was a big part of that entourage. They had like the Spice Girls, which was Alyssa Farah and Clavicle Girl, and the other one that nobody can remember. And then the Spice Bros, which were the four bros, looked like an Avengers movie. They were almost even like ethnically diverse, right? Remember, they had like the Latino guy, the white guy, the black guy, and Fanone. Remember that? Really nice. Like, well, we're gonna need a white guy in here for sure. Like, well, but bring him in. We need two of them. He'd written a book called Hold the Line, the Insurrection, right? And so they were really puffing him up after this. He toured the country. He'd received a congressional gold medal from Nancy Pelosi. They were exploiting him. They said, history will remember for your names and actions. Watch this. Whatever. As Pennsylvania shifted towards Trump, it all now seemed like a waste of time, he says. Those are hours, days, weeks of my life that I'll never get back. He says, I would have better spent them effing watching pornography? Michael, it's not good for your brain, brother. It's bad for you. Fanone had concluded, long before a single vote had been cast in the general election, that what unfolded at the Capitol that day hadn't been some grand MAGA finale, but it was just the effing beginning, he says. Hold fast, he got tatted up. Fanone did not want to watch election returns with me, says this reporter. He says, I don't have anything good to say about anybody. He explained over the phone. He says, I'm bitter. I'm angry. I feel like my country betrayed me. This was last week. The election hadn't even happened yet. Then he reluctantly agreed, but nearly backed out when the Washington Post declined to endorse a candidate. He spent a good day of Tuesday evening railing against Jeff Bezos. Fanone's house is on the peak of a Blue Ridge mountain at the top of a zigzag of steep grades. He'd moved in a year ago after trading his one-bedroom apartment in for 50 miles of space between himself and the Capitol. His dog steps down to greet me, and there's a poster of him on the wall of his book called The Aftermath. So he tuned his television to NBC, sank into the couch, he had his beer in his hand. He said he's had 7 traumatic brain injuries. Wow. All sustained during his 20 years on the force, and acknowledged it wasn't a good idea to drink. Okay, this dude is totally broken. He's had 7 traumatic brain injuries in addition to the one that he's claiming he got on January 6th. So that was his 7th. He had 6 more before. And he's drinking. A friend of mine told me you're supposed to pick something you love, he said, and let it kill you. Wow. Fanone looks like the same he did when he testified at the Capitol. Silver-haired, bearded, brawny. On Tuesday, he wore a dark green t-shirt. He'd left the police force not long ago after he testified to Congress. Then he worked on the book and traveled with, quote, Courage for America, which was an organization that was founded in the aftermath of the insurrection that aims to prevent another one. When he came back, he tried to get a job at Walmart, at Costco, at Cabela's. Nothing came through, right? Guy's totally used up. They exploited him and used him up, throwing him in a gutter. Now he's drinking himself to death with 7 brain injuries in a mountain, ranting about Trump. No one gives you a reason. It's pretty obvious. This is what the Democrats do to people. They don't care about anyone. He said, alluding to his belief that half the country thinks he's a traitor. He now runs his own private security business. He'd also had a contract with CNN that expired last year, but it wasn't renewed. Remember? Fined by Fanone, he'd hoped the platform would help him lead a conversation about policing in America. Instead, he was livid at the news organization for allowing contributors and guests to, quote, espouse conspiracy theories and BS in the name of access. He was so outraged over CNN's decision to hold a town hall with Trump that he wrote in the Rolling Stone an op-ed about it. The headline, he says, CNN is hosting a town hall for the guy who tried to get me killed. And guess what happened after he published that? He was never again asked to appear on the network. Because that's how they operate. Like, you're only useful to them as long as you're useful to them. If you step out of line, you're dead. Your contract's done. He got a pair of tattoos across the top of his hand. He says, I'll take the money, but these fools don't own me. Good, yeah, take their money. The media stopped calling. So did the politicians who'd once raced to take his photo with him, right? They were all calling him a hero. They all offered to help him find the best health care. We'll help you, Michael. When Fanone followed up on that, when he called people, can you help me get health care? My brain is damaged. Crickets, they said. Crickets. He can't forgive Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer for attending the Al Smith dinner alongside Trump. He says, how the F do you go there and lend credibility to Trump? Then say this man is an existential threat to our effing democracy. He's right. He's a good point. I mean, it's a good point. Of politicians, how do they say that? They should just all realize, including Fanone, that they've been brainwashed. All of politicians left and right, Fanone said, F all of them. Only 2 escape his condemnation. He loves Pelosi and Liz Cheney. All right. So he never heard from the Harris campaign about being a surrogate, even though 3 other officers he testified with went to swing states. He did one event for Biden. He called Trump an authoritarian. He hung out with Robert De Niro, who lost his mind, totally diminished his entire career by being a lefty psychopath. Could you imagine? You work for like 40 years to become this Hollywood icon, and at the end of your career, you're out standing on a street corner ranting about fascism. After all of it. Amazing. Fanone had met De Niro through Sean Penn. And yeah, it's how it works, man. The loving left just took this dude, put him through the grinder. And now around 9 p.m., he got a 3rd Sapporo. His dog fell asleep. NBC cut to a graphic talking about abortion rights. He has 4 daughters. He worries about their abortion rights. Says if democracy's not at the forefront, you don't deserve the effing freedoms. A lot of F-bombs in this conversation. Very angry at Merrick Garland. He says, you should have prosecuted Trump a long time ago. And so guys just, off the rails. He says, we can't say in all honesty, this is not who we are. He says, we are violent. We are hate-filled. We are self-centered. Gesturing his beer towards the television. This reporter left. He's like, I gotta get the hell out of here. As I left for the night, Fanone said he plans to return to the Capitol to hurl his medals back at it. Oh, take that, Nancy. So the dude has just been ground to bits. Thank you, Democrats. The same people who were parading him around on the media circuits as a hero. They say, we'll get you the best health care in the world. Hey, can you follow up on that, Chuck Schumer? Nothing. Crickets. Totally gone. Thanks for nothing. All right. So that's Michael Fanone. And was there news? Is Susie Wiles going to be chief of staff? Wow. Is that going to be a thing? Here, let's take a look. I'm seeing a couple comments about this. So let's pause before we go over and see what's up with Tish. Wow. Look at this. Breaking news, my friends. Trump announces Suzanne Summerall Wiles as the White House Chief of Staff. And based on the campaign and how she ran the campaign, I think that's probably a pretty good pick. The 45th and 47th President of the United States of America announced today that Susie Wiles, the winning campaign manager for President Trump's highly successful campaign, will be named White House Chief of Staff. Congratulations to Susie. Wow. Susie Wiles just helped me achieve one of the greatest political victories in American history and was an integral part of both my 2016 and 2020 successful campaigns. She did a great job back then, too. Susie's tough, smart, innovative, and universally admired and respected. Susie will continue to work tirelessly to make America great again. It is a well-deserved honor to have Susie as the first ever female Chief of Staff in United States history. Whoa! I have no doubt that she will make our country proud. Amazing. Yeah, I think she's been around a long time. She knows Trump well. 2016, 20, 2024. And this time was definitely the best of them all. 2016 was a phenomenon, right? That was a whole different category. But this was just nice, measured, tried and true, very consistent, no sudden moves, no big mistakes. It was very, I think, well run at a high level. So big news over there from President Trump. And that sounds like it's a good pick, as far as I can tell. Seems like she'll be somebody that he can trust and rely on. And it'll probably be a very good transition. She'll probably want to bring in a bunch of people from the campaign and not a bunch of other Republicans from Mitch McConnell. Good news. All right, so let's wrap it up with a little bit of a deeper dive on Tish James, because she is back. Tish James looking nervous in New York. Donald Trump has won the presidency. She ran her race to stop him, got very close to doing so, and now has to be concerned about repercussions coming for her own criminalities, her own exposure for violating the laws, for using the power of her office to go against President Trump. Should never have done that. And now is trying to enshrine her actions, to envelop them, to wrap them in legitimacy before Trump takes power. So both her and the governor have released this. As soon as Trump got elected, they came out, put this press release out on their website. New York State Attorney General. So these two are going to be unifying. Attorney General James and Governor Hochul are now committing to protecting fundamental freedoms against President Trump. All right. What freedoms I want to see specifically? Are they going to be stopping Trump from seizing from their citizens? They have an update. They announced a strengthened partnership, so they're even best-er friends than they were before, to address potential federal legal threats to reproductive freedom, gun safety laws, and other key issues. All right, so it's just going to be a battle. Governor Hochul also announced the new Empire State Freedom Initiative, which convened before the election and is already addressing comprehensive plans to address any regulatory threats that might come from Trump. New York is arming up against Trump. The governor also highlighted that New York has already taken steps to protect access to abortion, as the Constitution provides. During Trump's first term, the New York State residents found itself targeted by Trump, forcing the state to respond with affirmative and defensive litigation. All right, what happened? Now they're going to work to provide guidance to New York residents and more. Governor Hochul is also developing strategies to protect from threats that could emerge under President Trump. They're like in a war state. This team includes representatives from the Governor's Office of Federal Affairs, lawyers, the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. The task force is focused on areas where New York State and New Yorkers are most likely to face threats from Trump, including reproductive rights, civil rights, immigration, the deportation plan, gun safety, the environment, and other things. The task force has already developed an initial analysis of the vulnerabilities based on comments that have been outlined by Trump. It will now be tasked with driving proactive measures that they can take both before and after Trump is sworn in, through legislation, rulemaking, appropriations, partnerships, and more. Already bracing for impact. Following significant efforts by the governor and Tish, New Yorkers voted to enshrine abortion in the Constitution. It protects doctors, medical providers, and more. In addition, they have given $100 million. Wow. Wow. If you live in New York, they're paying $100 million to fund abortion providers. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of abortions. Additionally, the governor remains an active member of Reproductive Freedom Alliance. They abort even more. Also, climate change and guns. They're going to try to get guns off the street. So they're arming up over there, man. They're really getting ready to unleash their defense against Trump. And so, Tish, we played a short clip of this earlier in the week, but here was the full press briefing. Let's listen to Tish.
Thank you all for coming. And thank you, Governor, for convening us. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who ran for office, those who were victorious and those who didn't get the results that they worked for. There is nothing more difficult than running for office, and our democracy is better off because of your efforts. We also achieved an important step in our efforts to protect our right to choose in New York. And I want to thank Sasha Ajua for all of her efforts and Donna Lieberman of ACLU for all that they have done to get us to that point.
Okay.
Thank you to all of those who worked so hard to enshrine that right in our Constitution and protected generations to come. I also want to thank New Yorkers for showing up in record numbers to the polls.
Not that
to
record.
exercise your most basic and sacred
You guys are missing millions of votes.
right.
Where'd those go?
And lastly, I congratulate the President-elect Donald Trump.
Oh, President-elect!
And if possible,
yeah, Tish,
we will work with his administration.
Oh.
But we will not compromise our values or our integrity or our principles. We did not expect this result.
What principles?
But we are prepared to respond to this result.
Oh.
And my office has been preparing for several months because we've been here before. We faced this challenge before. And we used the rule of law to fight back. And we are prepared to fight back once again. Because as the Attorney General of this great state, it is my job to protect and defend the rights of New Yorkers and the rule of law. And I will not shrink from that responsibility.
Well, the Supreme Court, or the Court of Appeals rather, in New York might shrink for you because your team got obliterated there during oral arguments where the opening question from the judge was asking a whole slew of questions about how you could even think about bringing a claim like this against co-equal partners where nobody was harmed, where there were no victims of crimes, where nobody complained about it other than Tish did. So there's something interesting happening here. She seems a bit nervous in her delivery, but it might come from excitement. She might actually be thrilled about this. All right, a lot of people exist just to wage war against other folks. Like, this might be her basis for existing. In other words, it's just to take out Trump. She ran for office on that, probably wakes up every day thinking about it. Probably one of the biggest issues in her office. It's all structured around that. So this gives her like 4 years of being the victim and the hero. Like, she's going to run for governor at some point. And she'll run for governor having taken on Trump. So it's almost like she's salivating or getting excited about this possibility coming up. Oh, the SEAL media.
You see, between 2019 and 2021, the Office of the Attorney General took nearly 100 legal actions against the previous Trump administration.
Insane.
Including when he attempted to cap the state and local tax, and when he sought to eliminate funds and grants for law enforcement officers here in the state of New York. We fought to preserve DACA and protect the Affordable Care Act. We fought to prevent a question about citizenship from being on the census because we were concerned about the impact of funding, the lack of funding to the state of New York and how it would affect these programs. We beat the Muslim ban. We stopped the dismantling of the United States Postal Service.
All right.
We challenged anti-LGBTQ plus efforts. We safeguarded key environmental
yes, we know,
policies.
Tish.
And we
You're amazing.
protected access to reproductive care.
Yes, great
and we
job.
protected the right to organize.
Trump was going to eliminate
We
all
worked
of
around
it.
the
Yes,
clock
we know.
to defend these basic rights with our Democratic colleagues across this nation.
It's like a godlike complex.
So as you can see, we know their playbook. We know Project 2025.
He's never been a
before
part of
was
it.
even published.
Liar.
And we have been working both in my office and with other Democratic AGs across this country to make sure that we would be ready to respond to any attempt to roll back our rights. So here we are.
Very dramatic.
We've studied their platforms. We've identified certain possibilities, fact patterns.
Like what?
We've created contingency plans.
Like what?
So no matter what the next administration throws at us, we're ready. We're ready to respond to their attacks.
Is she in a hostile territory?
We're ready to respond to any attempts to cut or eliminate any funding to the great state of New York, as the governor outlined.
Well, good. You guys can raise taxes on yourselves.
So despite what has happened on the national stage, we will continue to stand tall in the face of injustice, revenge, or retribution.
Golly.
We will continue to protect and our most vulnerable and marginalized amongst us, because it is my sworn duty and responsibility to lead that fight, working with the governor of this great state, Kathy Hochul. This is not the time to be fearful, New York,
Tish is
but
here.
faithful
Gonna
and
save you.
steadfast, knowing that I, as the Attorney General, along with my entire team, we are guardians of the law, and we are prepared, my friends, to fight back. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. That was one of the most melodramatic, ridiculous statements. How many times do you think she practiced that? That's the Attorney General of New York. It sounds like she's in hostile territory, like she is a hostage in a hostage situation, or like their country's under attack or something. That's Tish James. So we'll see what happens. I do hope the DOJ pays some special attention to what has happened in New York, because prosecutors who are engaging in a targeted, weaponized prosecution of their political opponents are engaging in malicious prosecution, and they're committing an abuse of office and becoming fraudulent actors, and they should be investigated and prosecuted accordingly. And so hopefully Tish James has planned a contingency for that. All right. And so, my friends, it's been a beautiful stream and a beautiful day. If you're just joining us, if you're just tuning in, we had a great stream. We talked about how Trump's charges are doomed, how the criminal cases against him are basically dead. And so go back and check that out. We had an update on the New York case as well, and we checked in on Biden and Karine. We also learned why Jack Smith should get a lawyer, because he's illegitimate and stole a bunch of money. Then we had updates on Kari Lake. Stephen Richer canceled his X account, deleted it, as we await results coming in throughout Arizona. Kari Lake is saying they're fighting. We've got Harmeet Dillon, who is also there, who is saying there are lawyers circling the wagons. We've got FEC complaints being filed. We have attorney Ryan Heath, who's also doing his investigation and due diligence on this. We've got CNN's upset about it. We talked about Michael Fanone and about how he's drinking beers in the wilderness, saying how you got to arm the F up right now because Trump's going to come and kill us. And then we talked about Tish and her contingency plans as she lectured New York again about the dangers of Trump. And I wonder if she had her shoes on or if she took them off like she did in court. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. Let's see what you say about all this. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for subscribing to our show. And we appreciate you being here. Thanks for sharing it with a friend or family member as well, inviting them to come over and join us. when we go live. We had some very nice donos come in, including a very nice one from Kareem. Man, Kareem, thank you for that one, brother. We'll take a look at that one here coming up. But my goodness, wow, it's a beautiful, beautiful Thursday. And look at this Thursday graphic for us, courtesy of John McGarvey. It's a beautiful Thursday, America, it will be saved. Thank you, John McGarvey, for that one. Hey, Rick D says they called the Pennsylvania Senate race for McCormick. I did see that. Has the other guy conceded yet? I don't think the other guy has. So let's take a look at the Senate numbers, because I still think I have that queued up. The election results from the Times. Let's take a look at the Senate races. You're right. We had that queued up, but we didn't look at it when we were looking at the Kari numbers. So let's go back to that. Yeah, so the Times still hasn't called it, but he's up. 95% of the votes are in. He's up by 32,000 votes. So has Casey conceded yet? I don't think he has, right? Gallego, that hasn't changed. Sam Brown, there'll probably be litigation over that one. 47, 1 percentage point, 91% of the votes in. Sam Brown was on top on that one, but then lost after more ballots were discovered. What a day. All right, Rick D, thank you for that. Hey, CGI Joe says, thoughts on the discrepancy between Trump and Lake? Yeah, I mean, it sounds like people were just splitting their ballots. I don't know, other than abortion. Like the other split that I saw in Arizona was the abortion split. Like abortion passed in Arizona. So people were voting for Trump and for abortion. So the distinction maybe is that Kari Lake maybe is the odd one out on that. That's my only thought. Hey, this old guy says, I think it's glorious now. Now I know, and underrated, what Harris meant about joy. Trump's in the White House, this old guy. I'd tell you, man, I do feel a lot more joyful now because we're so unburdened by what has been. Hey, what's up, Ollie? Thank you, Ollie, for bringing in membos. Look who's here. Carl is here. Bogey 34. We got Charlie Oliveri, Garrett Pace. Rial is in the house, courtesy of Ollie. Thank you, Ollie, for bringing in new membos. NY says, this idea that some sort of civil court or legal briefing could qualify as being tagged with insurrection is a liberal pipe dream. Yet we want people to use the legal mechanisms. You should be encouraged to file a claim in court, not, something else violent. That's the preferred mechanism. More here says, Elong is a membo. My Alaskan Girl's a membo. We got Corey Powell, Lillian Counter, and Kitty Lang. Gifted membos, courtesy of More Here. Thank you, More Here. Ollie says, so is Ratskin going to still try to stop Trump? I don't think so. I think the mandate is way too big. They just can't do it. Hey, Knox Bierman says, happy Thursday, all. Kamala burned through $1 billion and is still 20 million in debt. Look at this number. 20 million in debt. Says, yeah, here's a next post. Says, Kamala Harris's campaign ended with at least 20 million in debt. Per two sources familiar, she raised over $1 billion and had 118 million in the bank as of October 16th. Where'd the money go? Also, their donors should ask questions. Where'd the money go? How'd they spend $1 billion and lose so badly? Like, did it go anywhere? Did somebody grift off with it? Tony Hay Munkets is bringing in 5 membos. What's up, Tony Hay? Poor Saw Jones, welcome. El Snappy Tan is here. Your girl Cheryl is here. Sandy's here. And Kim Birdie. What's up, Tony? Hey, thanks for bringing in 5 membos. David DeHart says the states that don't require documentation to vote is California, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, MA, again, MN, Minnesota, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, and Vermont. I think only states Kamala won. Yeah, I think there are some states that require some form of ID, but it's less than half of states require photo ID. Like if you look up the numbers, less than half the states require photo ID. they may require, they'll look at like an electric bill or something that has your name on it, but photo ID, it's less than half. Rick Donner says, whoa, Stephen Richer deactivated his X account. Yeah, we talked about that, Rick D. Your great minds think alike. Cliff Norman says, Trump as Wyatt Earp to Juan Mercan. Trump as Wyatt Earp to Juan Mercan. It's kind of a risky click on that one. I don't know what Wyatt Earp is going to do. Ollie says, hey, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot just got gifted a membo. Thank you, Ollie, and welcome, Whiskey Tango. Sharpening Man in Texas says, Keem said American citizens get what they deserve. Well, we deserve a good president. I'm glad we got one. Hey, this one from Knox Bierman says, look at her. She's so happy. This was the photo. Yeah, so this is Jill Biden voting. Look at her voting. Who did she vote for? Trump, man. Trump. Thrilled. I would bet she voted for Trump. That's how much I think they don't like each other. She probably did. She's like, yeah, screw it. Oh, Jill Biden. Benny says, who do you think Jill Biden voted for? I think we know, man. Yeah. Hey, this old guy. The best thing the Democrats ever did for Joe Biden was to let him out of this campaign. I know he's on the teleprompter, but his voice is so much stronger and clear. I think the party just gave him a few more years of life. He should have listened to Obama when Obama told him he didn't have to run. From this old guy. Yeah, you're right. You're right. He should have retired a long time ago. This old guy says, I think as far as federal election results are concerned, any state completing the federal count in less than 48 hours is simply eliminated from the count. Late results solved. Very simple. Yeah, it's like teacher, right? If your paper's not in by Friday at 6, it doesn't count. Well, what if my dog dies? I don't care. You don't care if my dog dies? No. That's pretty harsh. Get your paper in. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Ronnie, a big reason this election went the way it did is because people like you working hard to take back control of the information we're getting. You're part of the news source. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Ronnie, for saying that. I hope we are having an impact. I mean, I know we are working hard here. We're going through a lot of this experience together, but we are hopeful. That, I think, is part of the solution. I think we do have to rebuild. We've talked about it as our informational supply chains have been totally wrecked. And there's a lot of amazing people rebuilding them aggressively. And we're just happy to be a part of it. Happy to be a part of it. Thanks, Ronnie, for saying it. Thanks for supporting our work, man. Thanks for coming back and helping us keep on. We've got NY says, so Lake would be 53. So could Brown in Nevada. 53 Republican senators means that Susan Collins and Murkowski vetoes would go. They pulled that a lot during Trump's first term, right? The squishy Republicans. Remember, we kept talking about them, the squishy Republicans. John Libby, I hope for sake of JD's beautiful wife, they really clean the residence. Oh, John, I don't know what Kamala did in there. Michael Waller, what's up, Michael Waller? Shane says, you didn't write anything, Michael. Thank you, Michael, for the dono. Very generous of you. Appreciate your support. We have Rick D. sharing this one. Yeah, baby. Trump just confirmed that Susie Wiles will be chief of staff. Thank you, Rick D, for flagging that for us. And Christ Peachy. What's up, Christ Peachy? Christ Peachy? Christ Peachy? Christ Peachy says, number one. I think you're number one. Thank you, Christ Peachy. That's a nice Shibu Inu. And thanks for supporting us, Christ. Hey, Tom Lambrecht says, with the Trump litigation now evaporating, it seems like Alina Abba may be looking for a job. Wouldn't she be a great press secretary? And what a sharp contrast to Karine. Could you imagine? Yeah, I mean, we cover a lot more press secretary press briefings here. Guys, we have a very important press briefing. Again, Rob? Yes, again. We don't know. It's probably breaking news. We have to go to it. All right, hey, Chubby. This article on Fanone sounds more like a fictional story, just like his testimony about J6. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Maybe he had more beers or less. I don't know. We got this old guy says, if the Biden administration, Fanone would already be getting his 302 typed up. In the Biden administration, Fanone would already be getting his 302 typed up. Not to mention potential charges for threats against the president. Yeah, I see. So Fanone would be under investigation for these things, but he's not now. Thank you, this old guy. NY says, so I am ready for my debate with libs. If there were extra votes in a dozen counties, I would take a look. But Trump's posted lead in just about every county in the USA. This shows a general increase in support rather than a target of random suspicious vote dumps. Yeah, I don't think that Trump's election is illegitimate. In fact, NY, if you missed the stream from this morning with our members, we talked about the bellwether counties and we talked about other counties. I think it was in Wisconsin where turnout was over 100% in some wards. I think it was in Wisconsin. So we're encouraging the Democrats to investigate the election. They should, maybe it was rigged. Maybe go look hard, go look at the machine, see what you find. Let us know. We'll be waiting here. We got this one from Glocky. Breaking news. Susie Wiles, chief of staff. Good stuff from Glocky. Thank you for flagging it. NY says 7 traumatic brain injuries. Okay, TBI can alter judgment and mood. I wouldn't trust a word he said. Yeah, I didn't know that either. 7, that's a lot. Hey, Chubby says Fanone is heavily competing in the victimhood Olympics, going strong from the start with that list of injuries and the rest of his sob story. Yeah, there was a lot of that in there. It's always going to be America's fault for not understanding him. He knows what's true, and he's just not getting through because we're too dense. I know. We know the type. Elvis of Dallas says, remember when Fanone had to settle a racism charge before the January 6th narrative? Yeah, that's right. Wasn't he sued? He was sued. There was a lawsuit against him. And I think it was another cop about some racist on-duty stuff. And there was a lawsuit and he had to settle that. Then they said, oh, you're great. How many brain injuries? He's like 7. Like, oh, perfect. It's great. 7? So you'll just kind of say whatever? Great. Perfect. You're our guy. Thank you, Elvis of Dallas. I do. There's weird stuff. There's weird stuff with him. And I think that's why he's useful to them. But like always, they threw him in the gutter. Robert Davis says, hey, thank you for keeping the facts and the intent of the law front and center. I've been following you since Kenosha, baby. Ooh, that is a long time. Kenosha, August 2020. Watching the Watchers started March 2020. After they locked us down. So that's basically the beginning, Robert Davis. Man, thanks for being here. And then in August, I think is when we started going live daily. Because Ruth Bader Ginsburg had just died. There was so much going on. We're like, and the election was coming up. So it was born that year, baby. Thank you, Robert, for being here for so long, man, for supporting us this whole time. We love you. We got John Libby says Mike Pompeo was the reason Trump did not release the Kennedy files originally, according to RFK and Tucker. Yeah, I think there was that clip from Tucker on with Joe Rogan, right? And Tucker, was he talking about the JFK files or something else? But yeah, Mike Pompeo's lawyer called Tucker and threatened Tucker and said, if you receive information that's confidential, that person is committing a crime, which is kind of hinting to Tucker that you're a co-conspirator in solicitation of a crime. They're committing a crime if they give it to you. Okay, so what is it if I ask them for it? What are you implying? Oh, that you're going to arrest me. Tucker Carlson, a journalist, is what you're hinting. Yeah, that's that Mike Pompeo. Yeah. Thanks, John. Kareem, 165, brother. What a nice dono. Thank you for this one. Says, Rob, thanks for the long live stream you did last Tuesday, Rob. Much better watching it here than via that CNN nonsense. It was so great seeing Georgia, then Pennsylvania go red. I've been subscribed to you since 2020. Last Tuesday was my all-time favorite stream. Thank you for all you've given us over the past 4 years. Kareem, my friend, thank you for that. Thank you for subscribing for so long and being a part of this. It really was a special night for me. I had such an amazing time with you guys. I'll never forget it. I was thinking about that in the shower. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a trip that was. We were together for 10 hours. It was a 10-hour stream. And we were like on pins and needles the whole time. There's something that happens, I think, when we're bonding that way. And I know it's digitally, and it may not feel like as intimate as if we're in the same room, but I'm telling you, you may not believe me, but I'm telling you there is a connection that's happening that's deeper than you even realize. And Kareem, by you, showing up on the screen and participating in the community, people get to know you, they get to know your name. It sticks, it resonates. And I can speak on this from experience because when we showed up in Vegas, when we had our meetup in Vegas, it was like everybody already knew each other. We had never met each other, but everybody already knew each other because we hang out and we go through this stuff together and we see each other's names and all this stuff. I go to events. I'm going to go to an event tomorrow and it's going to be a little awkward in the room because there'll be a bunch of people. Not everybody's going to know everybody. It's kind of like, oh, what's going on here? It wasn't like that at all in Vegas because people know each other. Everybody's, hey, what's you're, oh yeah, you're you and you're you. And everybody was sharing screen names and stuff. So there is something really deep happening and I don't really know how to quite quantify it. It might be a function of being live, like live streaming together, that there's an organic codependency or something. That's not the right word, but there's a symbiotic relationship that happens. So Kareem, I really, my man, I wouldn't be able to do it without you, without your support, without everybody's support. This wouldn't even be happening. So I'm really grateful for it, Kareem. Thank you so much for the very generous dono, man. I hope we see each other again in another 4 years, and I hope we get to see each other in person sometime because what I'm explaining, you'll feel it. You'll feel what I'm talking about. It's really a nice thing. It's meaningful, community, connecting that's happening. And I think that is the solution. That's how we win. That's how we're going to outmaneuver our political opponents, is by building this infrastructure. And it takes years. It takes years to develop this. Here you see 4 years, right? 4 years. You really get to know each other after 4 years. Can't hide much or anything. And I'm really, really honored to be here with you, Kareem. So thank you for the nice dono, my man. Thanks again. We got this one from Kelly Doyen. Thank you, Kelly. It says, America, they are surely not looking to a peaceful transfer of power. They are looking to attempt an international emergency that will keep the now administration in place. We need to pray. These people are wicked. From Kelly. Yeah, there's a little bit of a quiet that's out there right now. And yesterday, the way we phrased it was showing us their belly, like the dog showing you their belly. But sometimes those dogs can be pretty aggressive. So you got to be careful. Still bite you. You got to be careful on that. We need to pray. These people are wicked. Thank you, Kelly. NY, what's up? Says the Supremes have rules. States have limited roles in enforcing immigration and abortion. Elections have consequences. Remember, Obama told us that. Clifford Williams says free men health evaluations for TDS. Wow, that's really nice. Nice offer. Free men's health evaluations for TDS. It might be a testosterone problem. Maybe, I don't know. John McGarvey. Rob, where did you say we were having the Watcher meetup in D.C. the night before the inauguration? John wants to go to the Capitol on January 6th, or the night before the inauguration. Man, that's a pretty damn good idea, John. Should we go to Vegas and go to the inauguration, or go to D.C.? I was saying Vegas, we were just there. Go to D.C. for the inauguration? Oh, the gears are turning here. Gears are turning. Thank you, John. Don't go to the Capitol, says KB. Don't go to the Capitol. No, we're not going to the Capitol on January 6th. No. But we won this time. But then the liberals will blame us when they do their insurrection. All right, John. Funny. NY, what's up? Meaning abortion can be legal in New York, but it cannot extend its rule outside of the New York state. It cannot interfere with other states' abortion policy. From NY Renal. This old guy says, Stinky Foot Letitia James, she takes her shoes off in court. Alina Abba told us. She's like, put your shoes on. You're stinking up the whole building, Tish. She just made the most arrogant speech ever after an election. That confirms her bias and her willingness to use her office to advance her personal beliefs. She's like a professional Trump victim now. That's her whole office. She's not well. Rich New, what's up? 7 months as a membo. Says, congratulations on getting your president. Thanks, Rich. I don't know if you're happy about it or not, but we're happy about it. So thanks for the warm wishes. Kind of has a tone like you're maybe not that excited. I kind of read it like, congratulations on getting your president. But thank you, Rich. We're excited about it. Thanks for being a member for 7 months. Hope you're happy too. NY says, Letitia James is excited because Trump wins means she is the, quote, only one who can save her liberal friends. It gives her a lot of power she didn't have during the Biden administration. Yeah, she's going to be the hero of New York. We got this from Object Class Keeter says, this looks like a hostage video, or is it just me? Yeah, it's pretty. The Tish video? Is she excited or nervous or what? Matt Grizzly says, deranged, lazy-eyed psycho sounds like a truck driver. From Matt Grizzly. Which is rude to our truck drivers. We love our truck drivers. But I understand. They might agree with you, though. I don't know. You have to ask them, too. They are a lot of fun, man. Truck drivers are fun. I used to represent a lot of truck drivers. CDL holders, because in Arizona, CDL, and I don't know how it is in other states, but CDL violations are criminal, like class 1 misdemeanors. You get like a logbook violation and stuff like that, man. It's like automatically criminal. And so they call them out. I got charged with this. It's this. Yeah, it's a misdemeanor. What? Yeah, it's a class 1. What's that? It's the same as a DUI. What? Same as domestic violence. What? Yeah, it's Arizona, man. We're psycho to our truck drivers. They get picked on a lot. But anyways, I know that's not the point of your comment, Matt Grizzly. Thanks for being a membo. And I worked with a lot of truck drivers, and a lot of them are just hilarious. Super fun dudes, mostly dudes, and some nice women too. NY says, DOJ needs to look into her campaign funding. A good deal of funny biz was uncovered by a few people on X. What? Yeah. And all that Act Blue stuff, like, I really would like to see a nice clearing out of the corruption. Lady Ice says, she is so fake melodramatic. It's like having an orgasmic experience to say this rehearsed BS speech. Unfortunately, that awful Proposition 1 passed, paving the way for creating new protected classes in the same fashion that California did. This is not good, from Lady Ice. We have NY says, DOJ needs to look into her campaign funding on Kamala's and where that money went. Mike Holmes says, Trump 2024, baby. Nothing can stop us now. Mike Holmes, member for 2 months. Thank you, Mike. More here says, is Tish still counting the Trump court fine interest? That's a good question. Or I wonder if that was stayed pending appeal. It's probably stayed pending appeal. So probably not. It's not accruing while Trump is vindicating his rights, I would imagine. Dan Sundin, Pennsylvania has been called for the Republicans regarding the Senate now up 53. We need Kari Lake to be 54. Oh my goodness. Did you see AOC almost died again? Trump got elected and she almost died again when she was not at the Capitol. Again, AOC. Hey, Brian B. What's up, Brian? Became a supporter. Grab the members only stream from this morning. You're going to love it. Debbie O, did you hear Mr. Davis, Mike Davis, says he'd put Letitia James's fat Tish in jail? He cited 18 U.S. Code 242, deprivation of rights. He'd put Tish's big fat Tish in jail? It's funny. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Angel says, thank you, Angel. Thanks for such awesome coverage. Looking forward to more. Thank God for using Trump to help our country. Oh, love your brain. Oh, thank you. Sometimes it works. Like, 55% of the time on a good day. Help our country. All glory to God, from Angel. Thank you, Angel, for the dono and for being a locals membo. Brian R. says, I'm seeing no chatter anywhere about the Senate races in Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Nevada. What's going on? We talked about Nevada, and I think the Wisconsin and Michigan races are now called. Let's take a look. Yeah, Michigan went to Alyssa Slotkin. She won by a small margin, 20,000 votes. Look at how close that race is, man. Will there be litigation over that? 0.3%. They gave it to her in Michigan, so she won, beat the Republican. Wisconsin, same thing, super small margin. 1.672 to 1.643. 49.4 to 48.5. Less than 1%. So really tight on those two races. Nevada's still out. Jackie Rosen, the Democrat, has taken the lead there. And Kari Lake is still lingering on. But we did talk Kari Lake at the start of the stream as well. So thank you for the dono, Brian. Hopefully that helps. Jeffrey Adams says, Rob, I've been a follower from the R&R Law Firm days. Just wanted to congratulate you on your success and thank you for the best election coverage. Jeffrey, thank you for that. Yeah, shout out to our friends at R&R Law, Ryan and the team over there doing amazing work. If you need a good criminal defense attorney in Arizona, they got you covered. Love those guys and gals. NY says, what's up, Lily? What's up, Harleen? What's up, everybody? NY says, Mike Pompeo was floated on X as a possible Republican member of the Harris cabinet. I guess he can stick to lobbying for foreign governments. We got Melody. Says, I'm just thinking about all the ways they have tried to stop Trump, and he has overcome it all. It's almost miraculous. Thanks be to God. Amen on that, Melody. Yeah, and this morning we read an article, I think it was from Axios, that said Trump has vanquished everybody. Trump has vanquished everybody. So Bush's, Clinton's, Obama's, Harris's, Biden's, everybody. Dynasty's gone. He's had 4 criminal prosecutions, multiple civil claims. He's had attempts on his life. He's had his house raided. I mean, the guy has had every single thing thrown at him, and he keeps going. He's a phenom. It's weird. It's weird to even witness it in our lifetime, because we'll probably never see a comeback like this ever again. Brian B. Hey, says, thanks for what you do to keep up the fight. Thank you, Brian B., for saying it, my man. I appreciate you being here and joining us in it. 10 months as a membo. That's a baby +1. Thank you, Brian, for being here. Zulu, 33 months as a membo. Zulu, thank you for being an amazing membo for so long. Says, election fraud. Election fraud. I think the Democrats should investigate. Clearly. Look into it. Look into it. Lady Ice says Marshmallow ran for office. Well, what's her policy on seed oils and cat food? NY says, so I'm absolutely gushing from this win. Although Trump needs to be sworn in, but I feel like we slayed the dragon. Admittedly, I made some money betting on Trump. I'd like to spend some of that on a meetup soon, Rob. Okay, NY, that sounds fun. On a trip? Well, congrats on the money. That's fun. And I also feel good about it. And we were talking about it this morning, but it feels like there's an opening of possibility. It's like, oh, okay. We don't have to be here defending against rigged prosecutions every day. That's great. We can talk about other things, which is like super fun for us. And we can do other things because we'll be talking about actual justice and actual policy making America great again, not having to be on the defense so much. We can be on the offense. It's going to be great. I can't wait. Hey, they say cows are bad for the environment. All they do is eat plants and fart. Kind of like vegans, says Rick. PH says, DC for the inauguration? I'm there, baby. That could be a lot of fun. Northern Lights, Membo for 6 months, says, I wouldn't want to spend election night with anyone but you guys. Exactly how I feel, Northern Lights. Exactly how I feel. Thank you for that, Northern Lights. We're glad to have you here, brother or sister. Appreciate you being here. Viva MAGA says, admitting 14 million votes were fake. Thanks for the long hours and the amazing coverage, Rob. Babylon B says 4D chess. Democrats admit Trump actually won in 2020 and is now unable to serve a third term. Oh, man, they got us. Nancy Pelosi says, oh, wait, correction. You were the president, so you're disqualified. Nice try, Nancy. Anti-war says it's the MAGA revolution. Thank you, Anti-war, or Anit-war. 702 Vegas area code. Thanks for being a membo over on Rumble. Thanks for watching on Rumble, too. Anit-war, appreciate it. Pam Ragland says, glad to be here. Just joined Sunday. Thank you, Pam. Thanks for becoming a membo on the locals. Thanks for all this. Say hi to Joe Polish for me. He's awesome. I'm going to see him tomorrow. He's going to be busy tomorrow, but I'm going to see him Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm going to Genius Network tomorrow. So schedule tomorrow will be different. By the way, I filed a complaint, so they gave our polling place a generator for shutting the electric off. Wow, that's interesting. Where was that at? Anyways, Pam, I will say hi for Joe. Thanks for saying hello. Thanks for becoming a membo. Thanks for supporting us. Joe Polish is the founder, the creator of the Genius Network. I'm a member of that group. It's an amazing group. And I'll be at his event all day tomorrow. So Schedule tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday will change, but I'll keep you posted as I learn more about what is happening. Tyler, Membo, 8 months, says Michigan and Wisconsin for Democrats. That's the new Democratic name for those states. Michigan and Wisconsin, because they didn't win. Get it? Hey, it's SB Cottrell. Hey, SB Cottrell says member for 6 hours. Thank you, SB Cottrell. I have not seen you come through, but it's nice to see you in the chat already. Liking this place. My county voted R in every race, local, state, and federal, except one judge who ran unopposed. Here's where I live in Beaufort County, North Carolina. Oh my gosh. Are you trying to make us all jealous here? Look how beautiful this is. This is where you live. It's kind of like dream property, you know, just walk outside, you're on a lake. Walk outside, you're on an ocean. Beautiful. Amazing. SB Cottrell, glad to have you as a membo. Thanks for inspiring us with your beauty. Rick D, 6 months as a membo. Thank you, Rick. 2/3 of the way to a baby. Thanks for supporting us. Nathan C, membo for 3 months, says +1 for a DC meetup. I live in Alexandria, Virginia. It might be good, you know, because then like there's a lot of people on the East Coast. Maybe I could say what's up to Viva. Maybe I could go on another show or something, you know, that'd be fun. NY, what's up? For those who criticize Trump for doing Madison Square Garden, Coachella in California, and Nassau Coliseum, Bronx can eat it. All those political gurus saying it was a waste. Who could have dreamed a huge popular vote mandate? I know, man. Popular vote is just icing on the cake. Makes it so, so delicious. NY says, for those, oh, we got that one from NY. Thank you, NY. And then we just saw Steve with the snakes. Steve Irwin with the snakes. Trying to get rid of DC. Snakes in DC. Good stuff. NASA, right? NASA. Is that how you say it? All right, so my friends, let's say hello to our friends on X before we wrap it up and go on over to Locals to hang out and do a members-only debrief, hang out for a little bit and see what's cooking. We had some comments on X. B Torn, what's up, X? Saying, a guy in Mike Davis's X is parroting this article, why legal experts are worried about a second Trump presidency. We're not worried about it. What's up, B Torn? A couple other posts over there. Hey, James Pepper says Ken Paxton just posted this one. A case against Homeland. Not familiar with that. We've got James Pepper, Feline Fun, says, what are your thoughts about Raskin and his rhetoric on refusing to certify the election? I think he'll do it. He's just talking to raise money, but I think they'll certify it. It's great comments, my friends, over on X. Now we're going to go over to Locals for our members only after party. Nathan C says, Good Logic and LOSD are likely coming too. They're going to DC. Well, maybe we'll just all have to party together, you know? White Raven, what's up, White Raven? Thanks for becoming a supporter and supporting us on YouTube. Lady Ice says, having attended the MSG rally in person, I was pretty sure he was going to do it. It was just such an awesome event, like God's blessing was shining down and anointing Trump that night. Amazing, Lady Ice. And SB Cottrell, oh, you identified those 15 million voters? Says cannibals ate those 15 million votes for dessert after they finished eating Unky Bozy. Who's Unky Bozy? Is that Biden? We were trying to figure out where those 15 million votes went. Some people were saying maybe they were raptured. They're gone. We're like, well, that sucks. So they all, like, we're all left here? What? So, or something. Where'd they go? Disappeared? Are they, some people were saying Joe Biden might have them in a cage somewhere. He just let them out to vote for him and then put them back in cages. We have no idea where they went. They're just gone. Where are the voters in America? Like 14, 18, 20 million voters gone. Oh, they never existed. Oh, fun. All right. Aliens. Yeah, it could be aliens. I don't know where they went. Democrats should definitely investigate it, though. We hope they do. Okay, my beautiful friends, it has been an amazing stream with you. thank you for being here and for joining us. We will let you know what the schedule is tomorrow. I have an event, and then depending on my schedule, we'll let you know if or when there's a stream tomorrow. We will be posting a walk and talk in the morning for members. When I get over there, I'll show you the scene. And we're supposed to have a very special guest who's speaking at this 3-day event. So I'll keep you posted on that as well. But thanks for subscribing. Thanks for hitting that notification bell. I'll let you know how the schedule looks tomorrow. Otherwise, my friends, come over and join us. watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We're going to go hang out, debrief a bit. Otherwise, my friends, we will be back here to get into it again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.